this issue that kind of bothers people of all religions. And the issue is, how can you be sure about God? You talk about God, you drag us to the temples and make us crack coconuts and go on pilgrimages. How can you be possibly sure about God? Because everything in the world that we live in requires proof. Suppose you say, we believe in this theory. They say, what's your proof? So how can you be sure about God? Isn't it a very lovely thing to explore? So in the F module, they allow you to explore this marvelous idea, how can you be sure about God? So we're going to explore this whole issue. Now you see, suppose I say, how can I be sure about you? You can say, look, I'm sitting in front of you, you can come and thump me, see, I'm here, you can be sure. Now this is called empirical evidence. Empirical means evidence that is supported by sense data. So my senses are confirming this evidence. So if I say, here, this is the piece of bag here, I can actually visualize, see it physically. So empirical means that which is supported by sense evidence, sense data. So the world that we live in, the science world that we live in, likes stuff like that can be supported by evidence, and they are looking for physical evidence, sense data. This is called empirical evidence. And this is why the people from science sometimes challenge religion and say, you're all it's all fairy tales, surely it's not real. This is how they challenge. And of course religions must respond to this issue, how are you sure about God? Now, there are three kinds of people you are going to meet in life. There are those people who say, we are sure there is no God. We affirm there is no God. And these people are called atheists. In Sanskrit, Nastik, meaning that we say, we are quite certain there is no God. We are putting our hand up saying, there is no God, it's nonsense. These are called atheists. Then there is a second bunch of people who are called agnostic. Now the word agnostic, you may be surprised, actually comes from Sanskrit. You say, Sanskrit, how did that enter into this? Kind of sounds almost like Greek. The reason is this. The Sanskrit term we have is agnan, which means knowledge. From the word agnan, knowledge, the Greek language takes a lot of material from Sanskrit. So the ancient Greek took on the word gno. From gnan, it became gno in ancient Greek language. So the word gnan became gno in Greek, and from gno, it became no in English. So the word G became silent, so gno became no. That's what the word no. And knowledge comes from straight from gnana. Gnana, gno, no, knowledge. See how linked. So there is an etymological link, a linguistic link between the ancient Sanskrit language and modern English. So the word gno means to know, and the word agnostic that I just introduced means not to know. In front of it, not to know, agnostic. So the word agnostic is literally a straight derivation from Sanskrit, which means we don't know if there is a God or no God. So first I told you there is one bunch of people who say we are atheists, we know there is no God. How can you know something doesn't exist? This is the biggest problem. But they say we are sure, because there are so many things I can pull out to suggest there is no God. For example, say straight away the question arises, if there is an almighty God who is all compassionate and all knowing and all powerful, how can there be suffering in this world? Forget about the human suffering, the suffering in the animal kingdoms. They're tearing each other apart and killing each other and eating each other while they're alive. How can a God create a universe like this? Forget about the human problem or law of karma. You are to blame. It doesn't say. What about the animals? The poor deer is eating grass in the forest and the leopard jumps on it and kills it. What has the poor deer done that it deserves to be torn apart and eaten alive? So it's straight. This is how the atheistic will challenge religion, saying that the suffering that we see around us makes us feel sure there is no God.